All right, here we are. We're live. We want to announce something. I'm excited about it. So we're right here in the studio in person. So this is, normally if you're watching Theology Applied with Right Response, you're going to see, AD popping up, but he's somewhere else, right? It's virtual. You're going to see Isker popping up, but he's somewhere else. Well, we just had the immense privilege of spending a week together, actually in person, recording. We just got finished doing it, 9 episodes. So, I mean, we've got 9 hours of content that's going to be coming out. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be coming out a while from now. It's going to be a little while. And the reason why is because we're trying to do something that we've never done before. We're trying to have my guy, Nathan Elam, who is a wizard when it comes to tech. He's going to be taking a couple months, not just a couple days or weeks, but a couple months, and really working hard on editing all this, adding some music, some B-roll at certain parts, because it's a 9-part series intentionally. And what's it over, Andrew?
It's over my book.
Yep.
We're talking about my book, The Boniface Option. I think it's right here.
I'm going to hold mine upside down.
You can see it.
I don't want anyone making memes.
Andrew wrote a short book, not quite as short as mine, but a short book. But here's the deal. Even though it's an easy read, it's a short book. I say it's an easy read, but we read certain parts of it out loud for the cold opens, and turns out that, maybe it's not so easy to read because I had trouble reading.
We might have to re-record some of those.
We might have to re-record some of that. But anyways, the point is, it's a short read. It's energetic. It's fun. It's packed. It packs a punch. But still, not everybody will read it. That's just not the way life works. Not everybody will read it. They should. They should, but not everybody will. And so I think to say, all right, well, you've got the book. You also it's on Audible, right?
It is. Yeah.
Who read that for you? Justin something.
No. Oh man, I'm blanking on his name.
I listened to it.
He's phenomenal. He's very good.
Right.
Very good.
I listened to it, and I was he should do the cold open because he knows how to read good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, better reader than me too.
He knows how to read good. But so anyways, we're thinking there's the Audible book. Isker of course has the actual book, but to have like a podcast discussion.
Joel Jeffrey, that's his name.
Okay, there you go. To have a podcast discussion where like 3 guys talk about the book. So that's what we do is we basically go over each chapter of the book, and there's a cold open. We actually read out loud, poorly, albeit, but out loud, a portion of that chapter, and then we just talk about it. And that's going to be launching in a few months. Yeah. What do you guys want to say about it?
You go ahead.
I mean, it's awesome stuff. There's just no question about it. I mean, the book is, like you said, it's great. It's energetic. And the conversation is also likewise
great and energetic.
And I think the thing too is that sometimes when you read a book, you kind of import your own sort of tone to it, your own kind of.
Well, you do.
You project yourself into it. But it's awesome to hear you talk about it, just person to person kind of thing. It's
absolutely.
great.
Yeah, it's cool to read something and then have the author sit next to you, and get to ask them questions, and then they're like, well, what do you mean by this?
Yeah, they put me on the hot seat.
What did you mean when you say fake and gay, dear sir? What do you mean by the fakeness and the gayness of Trash World? And these are actually, for those of you who haven't read the book, these are actually parts of the book.
They are parts of the book.
And it's perfect. Like your verbiage, it's not just this. Sophomoric,
they're going to have to read it to know what we're
makes
saying.
sense. You have to read it, or if you absolutely hate reading, you can watch our season on it.
You can still buy the book, though.
But
that's
you
the
can
key.
still buy the book.
Yeah, you don't even need to know how to read to buy the book.
How high did you get up on? Like, didn't you beat Russell Moore for at least for a day or
for
so?
a while, for like the first week? Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, the Amazon rankings. There's some kind of magical algorithm and how it works, how many sales you get right away in the very beginning and things like that. I think we made it overall into the 30s. I want to say our top 20.
Is
maybe.
That overall or one category?
Overall books, yeah.
Overall books on Amazon, top 30.
So we made it, into like the top 100. Yeah.
That is insane.
For a few couple days anyway.
Way to go, man.
It's a major printing press too. Right? A major publisher published this book, correct?
It is, Gab Press.
That's right.
Gab
That's right.
Press. Yeah. This is the first Gab book, right?
Second one. I mean, we did the Christian Nationalism one.
Yeah, of course.
But this is the first one that I did all on my own.
Right.
Yeah. So it did extremely well, and we're very happy with how well it's been selling, and lots of people, besides just like how well it's sold, people have actually read it and said this is really good. This describes exactly how I feel about all these things, all the things that I'm seeing, and no one really talks about how messed up the world is that we live in, and the reasons why it's as messed up as it is. And somebody finally did. So I mean, I have tons of people, both friends of mine, but also people I don't even know. They're like, I bought 50 copies to hand out to people and things like that. I'm like, all right, do it again.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like when I read it, all the thoughts I've had at different times, and it really connects it all, which is important. But even more importantly than that, it's just not all about the problem, because a lot of people talk about problems. You know what I mean? It is a book that offers solutions that are not too big for the average man to pursue.
Right. There's lots of white pills. There's hope. There's optimism, which is not a masculine trait.
Yeah, apparently not. Yeah.
Right. But no, there's optimism. There's hope. There's some white pills in there. Basically, the whole first, it's really like not the first half, but like 2/3 probably. Yeah. 2/3 of the book is this is how this is Donner's oak, and it needs to be chopped down, right? So we're not just going to escape, but we're actually going to confront trash world and chop it down. And then the last third of the book is but it's not enough just to get rid of the idols. Like, okay, now that the tree has been chopped down, let's go ahead and take this lumber, this timber, and build a cathedral in its place. Like, let's restore Christendom. So and that's where the white pills really start coming in. And so when we break this up into 9 episodes, that's kind of our last 3 episodes, but definitely the last episode is W's in the chat, lots of hope, lots of excitement. Is there anything you want to address? I see you looking at the comments up here.
Oh yeah, no.
Do we have anything good?
Oh, man in the middle. I am relaxed. I'm. I guess
you might need another drink or two.
I'll lean back and
just slide down.
Oh,
hey
hello,
everyone!
Friends.
Hello. Anybody got a question? If you got a question for Andrew or for AD or for me, while we've got the 3 of us together, we're happy to address a question. In the meantime, I can always just filibuster all day long.
That's right.
But so
both of you guys can.
But in the
actually.
meantime. So doing this project, actually having you in person, getting to ask you questions. So I think you do a good job at 2 things. There's a lot of guys who realize, okay, trash world, clown world, whatever you want to call it, things are really bad, and they really got bad in 2020. They've been bad for 3 years, and it's like,
it became obvious now.
Well, sweetheart, things became obvious 3 years ago, but things have been bad for a while.
Yeah.
So I think you do a really good job in the book, and then we flesh that out in our conversation, the 3 of us. But saying no, things have been bad for a long time. A long time. It was slowly and then suddenly. That's one of the things that you quote in the book.
Yeah, we've said that a lot. Yeah.
Right. Hemingway, right?
Hemingway, yeah.
Can you quote him?
It's about how he went bankrupt, right? First gradually, then suddenly.
Yeah. And that's how trash world has happened. The last 3 years is the sudden factor, but there was a long gradual build.
The culture's been degrading over time.
Right.
And then 2020 accelerated it that much more.
And so we talked about like different key characteristics of trash world. Feminism was a big one. Like we really took
we spent a lot of time talking about
feminism.
that.
And you did in the book, and then we did in our conversation. And saying feminism did not just pop up in the sexual revolution in the 1960s. Even that was already the fruit of a lot of these feministic roots. We went back to the Second Great Awakening and Charles Finney, and we talked about the temperance movement. That like the feminists, they want women's suffrage, and they want to have the 19th Amendment. Also, and it's not a coincidence, they want to get rid of alcohol.
Yeah, they want to ban alcohol, right?
That's right.
This would be illegal 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So in honor of feminism, we're saying no. So all that being said, the point is you do a good job going back to the origins, but then going forward in this post-millennial hope and saying, well, it doesn't always have to be this way, and it won't. Any questions that you notice?
Oh, there's
you want to try to
a
address?
good one.
There's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
How do women support, promote post-mill thought and action, women's spaces?
In women's spaces.
Oh, thought and action in women's spaces that are very pietistic and
Gynocratic.
Yeah. It's rough out here for us post-mill ladies. Every time I see gynocratic, I think of the epilogue for Stephen's book.
Oh yeah, the gynocracy. She's right.
What do you think?
It is. Maybe I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, listen, I'm not a pastor, but at the end of the day, like what the Bible says about women, in the church life and things like that. The older women are teaching the younger women to take care of their husbands and love their husbands and be good wives and good mothers and all these kinds of things. That kind of support, I think, is absolutely necessary in to put forward a postmillennial vision forward. You need that, and so honestly, like that's some of the most important work in the kingdom at all. I would say is it's all about the next generation and the things that you do to raise them up and to teach them and to push them forward. So in pietistic spaces, I would say encouraging the other women to do those things, because those things are going to come naturally too. It's not really about theology proper so much. You're not teaching them a book of the Bible, but you're going to end up encouraging pietistic women to do what they were actually programmed to do. They were designed to do. I shouldn't say programmed, because that's what Trash World does.
But they program us.
Right. They were designed to do this, and so that should come naturally to them. They should take to that.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, I think about like just my wife, and she's been in environments like that often, right, where they are, to use another term, longhoused, and it's gynocratic, and it's and extremely pietistic, and she's not that way at all. And so I don't know, like in some of them I've told her, like, well, you're not going to be able to change it yourself. You're not going to be able to have this very post-mill vision and very earthy vision of practical theology and how you're doing it. So you just need to continue living faithfully in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And try to influence the other ladies in that world and talk to them when you can and try to persuade them that like, this mindset isn't the best. But and in other ways, I think you just have to build your own. Right? If you have different women's ministries and things like that, it's like you have to build your own and that are not that way, that are not pietistic. Right?
One of the things we've talked about many times in the various episodes that we've done here is the idea of having fun and having joy and being an example of joy to other people. And there's theological reasons for that. There's personal reasons for that. But at the end of the day, that's also attractive too. And it attracts people. People want to be around people that are having fun and they have joy in their work. And so if you're the kind of woman that believes in this post-millennial future, and you're working with your children and rearing your children and you're helping your husband in the right ways, do it with joy too, right? Because it's all too easy to say how hard it is. It's actually a TikTok meme right now about how difficult it is to raise an infant, and it is difficult. But it's also fun. Right. It's also there's a lot of joy in raising kids. You know what I mean? And so, and we've been laughing too. We've been FaceTiming with our children here, and they just do the funniest stuff all the time. And so anyway, the point is though that if you're doing that. A lot of times you don't even have to be, having private conversations with these women to encourage them into that. They're just going to want what you have. And then they're going to ask you, what's that all about? And then maybe you have a conversation with them about that. They got to want it first before they'll believe it. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep. Hey, Nathan, scroll up in the comments real quick. There was one that was basically asserting that I guess me and AD or me and Isker would disagree on something. I just want to read that.
It was Stephen, I think. Yeah.
That Stephen disagrees with me being Joel or with all three of us?
On theonomy.
Okay, but let me see.
It's right there. The
I need to listen to your Fight Laugh Feast panel with Wolf the Greater. Just heard him on a podcast where he said he'd disagree with Pastor Joel on his theonomy because Joel wants to make things to be immediate. No. I think you misunderstood. That was the opposite of what I'd heard from Joel.
Yeah, so the commenter gets what you're saying, but maybe Stephen doesn't.
Stephen would disagree with me, so absolutely we would disagree on that. Although Stephen likes me, I like Stephen. We're fine. Like we're both gonna rule the world together, and
just have disagreement.
We have a disagreement. It's not the end of the world. But with that. It wouldn't be that I want things too immediate. Yeah. If anything, Stephen's critique, and I think he's onto something here. I think it's fair. His critique, I think, of some of the post-mill theonomic guys is that they're content to have Christian nations 5,000 years from now.
Yeah. And do nothing in the meantime.
Right. Yeah. So Stephen would not critique Joel as a theonomist for being too sudden. I think he would critique me for maybe being in a camp with some other guys who are content to be too slow.
I think that there are some theonomists, and I definitely sympathize with Stephen's criticism here, because I am a theonomist, but there are some theonomists that they want it to be perfection essentially right off the bat.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so for example, like I don't think prisons are moral at all, right?
No.
Oh, they're horrible.
Yeah, we should get rid
And
of
so,
prisons.
right, we
But
should.
slowly.
We should. But yeah, that's the thing, right? So in other words, if there was a law to sort of reduce the prison size, and we did it incrementally, right? Maybe we didn't quite do it with murderers yet because we weren't quite there, but whatever.
We start flogging people instead of putting them in prison.
Sure,
That's right.
or something
Which
like
would be good.
It would be very good.
I'm okay with taking those kind of steps, right? And it doesn't have to be perfection. I think there are some theonomists that would say, no. You can't do that.
Right.
It has to be exactly the way it was in, Leviticus in our modern context or whatever it is.
And everything right now, there can't be any pragmatic steps to get to that point.
Right.
There can't be
Yeah.
incrementalism.
That's like an
incrementalism at all.
OCD kind of like very wooden theonomy. And I know a lot of guys, and I love them, that are like that. That's what I think he's criticizing. And I think that deserves a little bit of criticism.
Yeah.
I see that. Yep. And then we would have our criticisms. Like
Of course.
For me, like, part of it, it's funny, one criticism that, the Thomistic kind of, guys who would, for the record, natural law, natural revelation, like, we're reformed. So, of course, yes and amen. But guys who would lean more heavily on natural law and less on, theonomy, they would, they would look at the theonomists and say, well, you don't have... what are you going to do about borders? Because the Levitical law doesn't address borders, and so like theonomy is not going to work. And my answer is you need to be general equity maxing, right? And like when you're saying natural law is sufficient for all these things, like let's just be honest. You're saying natural law plus a swimming pool worth of prudence and wisdom and application and common sense and all. So when I say which is the confessional position, both 1689 and Westminster, when I say the general equity of the civil codes given to Israel, I'm assuming in there implicitly I'm including that the general equity of these Old Testament laws is going with prudence and wisdom have to be shaped and formed for our society in 2023 in Western culture today. It's really no different. The only I shouldn't say that. There is a difference. The difference is that your book of nature, it's a much thinner book. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to use that book. God wrote two books. He wrote them both. But what I'm saying is, as a guy who's more in the theonomic camp, is I'm going to say at the end of the day, I can look at the constellation of the stars and follow the migration patterns of the white-tailed axis deer and see how, praying mantis behaves with its partner, and I can derive it. But I can also say, hey, God wrote a book, Exodus 20, open it up, let's read. And it's binding. It's binding, and it still requires application and prudence and wisdom. I'm not saying it's wholesale. You just pick it up and drop it down 1-to-1 ratio. In 2023. But those would be the differences. But it's really I don't think it's the fight that should be fought.
There's some follow-ups to that one. I don't know if.
Okay, let's just look at a couple follow-ups, and then we're going to have to go to a quick commercial. He later said that he disagreed with Doug Wilson. Who is this from the panel or Stephen Wolf's podcast?
It's in the Christ Overall podcast.
Christ
by
Overall
David Schrock.
podcast.
It's hard to understand this because we
who
haven't
said
seen
it?
what he said.
Did David Schrock say it or Stephen said it?
Stephen said it.
Okay, so he later
Allegedly.
said he allegedly.
So he disagrees with DW on blasphemy laws, but Doug, as said before, he does favor them.
Doug favors blasphemy laws.
So I think what he's getting to is like Stephen might not fully grasp the position that like you have or Doug
I
has.
see. Yeah,
so I think that's fair.
He might just be incorrect.
That's possible.
I think that's probably
but,
fair.
Like Stephen is, if you say, this is what I actually believe, or Doug says this is what I actually believe,
Stephen will
he'll
like
correct
believe
himself.
you. Yeah, he'll be okay.
Oh, I was wrong.
Whereas the way everyone else treats Doug and Stephen for that matter, and me and you and
Stephen,
AJ,
you're actually a
is like,
kidist.
no, this is what you believe. It doesn't matter what you say. If we corrected those things, and just for the record, I think that goes back to the original comment about the immediacy, because what Doug would say is he would say, we need to have blasphemy laws, but let's punish the biggest blasphemer first. And he would say, that's Caesar, that's the state. And then he's made comments like this. He said, let's go ahead and give it a couple hundred years. Like a couple hundred years of strict blasphemy laws against the state. And then, so I think he says it like this, let's have the state obey the third commandment for a couple hundred years before it enforces the third commandment. And Stephen, I could see Stephen saying, that sounds nice, Doug, but I don't.
It needs to be more immediate than that.
A couple hundred years is too long. So Anyways, but Doug is for blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick moment and hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll come right back. So you got a second? Think about some questions that you might have. Write them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer. Finally, a coffee company that doesn't hate you and your beliefs. Today's sponsor, Squirrely Joe's Coffee, is a thoroughly Christian company that ships seriously good coffee straight to your front door. Owned and operated by Joe Morris and his family out of Olney, Illinois. They believe that Christians should be building a thoroughly Christian economy by doing business with other like-minded Christians. They also donate a portion of their proceeds to Operation Underground Railroad to help end child trafficking. Just go to squirrelyjoes.com and use promo code RRM for 20% off your purchase. Squirrely Joe's Coffee, share coffee, serve humbly, live faithfully. We can't retroactively. Gotcha. All right, here we go. We are back. You got our little sidebar there. Okay, so the next
on-air
question.
production meeting.
Ada, you want to read it? Austin Roth, up there at the top.
Yeah, sure. Is being in the U.S. military a viable option at this point? It seems like a lost cause to me. I just retired. But many friends are certain that staying in is the path forward and encouraging kids to go into the military.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Who wants to go first? I got thoughts, but
I do too. This is a position I've thought about for many years. You know, I didn't serve in the military, partly because I wanted to in high school, and my parents no, don't go. My mom's begging me not to go, right? And so I said, fine, I'll go to college. I should have said, fine, I'll go if you pay for the college.
right.
But fine,
The
I'll go
art
to
of
college.
the deal, right there.
Right? Yeah, I hadn't read that yet, right? And so I go to college, and my political views start to change, and it's like, oh, I see, the Iraq War is actually not very good, and I don't want to go die over there for that, even though I love my country and I would love to serve it. And so I began to have a very negative view, and I started to get into very libertarian phase, got into Ron Paul, things like that. So I thought any military service is definitely bad. But then over time, I began to, modify that, rethink that.
Were you libertarian when you were in Greyfriars?
Yes. Yes. That's what Doug and I always argued about.
Doug argued with it. Doug was right. You were wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm more right. But now I look at it and I think that it's valuable, right? It's valuable, but right, because I want good men in the military. I don't want insane woke people in the military.
That's right.
But at the same time, it's I don't want good men to go die in Ukraine or in Lebanon or Iran either. And so I'm torn on it. There's that, but then also the military, especially the very upper echelons of the military, are super woke. They've been selected for how woke they are. Yeah. And that didn't just happen under Biden. It's been happening for years. And even Trump being in office wasn't enough to tamp that down. He wasn't personally selecting the colonels that get made generals. And so I'm you're going to be, as a regular American man, you're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole, even in that. Right. Even not just in the corporate world, but even there, right? The one place that used to be safe.
But how would that be categorically different than getting a job at Amazon? The top of any big corporation is woke too.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're not going to be. Amazon probably isn't going to send you to get mowed down by Russian machine guns.
You're right. But to go back to the whole trash world thing, we're saying okay, it's incredibly hard to have a household. To be a single income breadwinning, household, to take a wife, to have kids, to not have to send them to public school, to afford to homeschool them, keep your wife at home. And here's the thing about the military. Yeah, they might send you to die. You don't have the guarantee that this war actually meets up, with the conditions of just war theory.
Exactly.
So 100%. And at the top, the dude, your general is a dude and he's wearing a dress. So there's all of that.
Yeah.
But here is the thing. So when I was in San Diego, over half of my church was military.
Yeah.
We had Navy SEALs, we had, boatmen and, a lot of guys, sub guys, all the whole nine yards, a few Marines, most of them Navy. But here's the deal. You look at the church, you could draw a straight line from about half of the church owned homes. Half of them rented. Guess what? All the guys who owned homes did. They were the military guys.
Yeah.
So you do that, you might lose your life, but you can escape trash world economically.
And
GI, VA,
the benefits are great. All those kind of things, and it's an honorable profession, and I still love my country, and I still want men to serve our country, right? And so, one of my best friends, he he just joined. He just joined the military a couple of years ago to be.
Really?
And he was in law school, right? And really brilliant guy. And he's like, the law is stupid. I hate it. I want to go be an infantry officer. And that's what he went and did. And like immediately in officer training school, like the army poisons him with like lead poisoned water. And he's already like having to deal with that. And I'm like, well, that's not good. But that kind of stuff happens, all the time. So, like bureaucratic mistakes and things like that.
I wouldn't want my kids to go into the military. I have 3 daughters, but I wouldn't want my son to go into the military.
Yeah.
But just to be fair to the question, the only reason I'm pushing back a little bit is because it didn't just include like new recruits. Like, would you encourage your kids? Because I'm assuming with that, we're talking about an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, would you encourage someone to go into the military today? I would say no. I actually wouldn't. But included in her question or his question was also, but what about those who are already in? And I would say like if you're 5 years out from hitting your 20.
Yeah. I would stick it out.
I would stick it out.
Yeah,
That's why I'm trying to be realistic here.
If you made it through the vaccine stuff too,
right?
If you made it through there and
if you made
didn't
it
have
all
to get
that,
vaccinated,
and you've got 4 more years or 5 more years, like so. I wouldn't, with this person who's asking the question, I wouldn't be, the just retired, parenthetical statement. I wouldn't just retire and then be looking back at someone who's got 2 more years and is going to stay in because they want to get the thing that you just got yourself, and then give them a hard time for staying in.
Yeah,
not saying that this person's doing that.
I'm not even like totally against it. Like, I don't want my sons to go. I don't get to pick and choose the kind of government I have and things like that. But if I had like a reasonably righteous government, or even a fairly unrighteous one, like if it's 1968 right now, and my son is 18 and says, "Hey, Dad, I want to join the army and go fight in Vietnam." Like, would I be like, "No, that's horrible. Don't do that." I actually probably say yes. Like, go ahead, make us proud. Yeah. And that isn't a perfect condition, right? It's not ideal. I understand the politics and everything that went on in that war, but these were good men. Like we did a whole like episode on boomers,
right?
And I regret
almost 2 episodes.
Yeah, I regret not bringing up Vietnam because I think that the men that served in Vietnam were, I have friends that say that's the best military we ever had. These men that went and fought there, and I think they're right. I mean, they acquitted themselves well. They're fearless men.
Honestly, we've said this a lot in the series as well. If you're going to do it, you just need to do it with your eyes open, understanding the trade-offs.
Yeah.
Because there are benefits and there are costs.
Right.
And as long as you do it, understanding that with eyes wide open, you're going to make a good decision for yourself.
It is, I mean, to the people that want to do it or the young men that want to do it, like it is still, like we talked about this last night, like one of the only places that where masculinity is still exalted is in like popular culture and in public is like the NFL is like football.
Right.
And that's one reason why it's so popular. And it's also still that way in the military, especially in like combat units and like infantry units and the units that are still mostly all male. And so like if you want that, right, you want the camaraderie of fellow men and you want the honor and status that comes with being a combat veteran.
Right.
Like that's an honorable thing to pursue.
Right.
Even though knowing full well you might be sent to go kill and die for really wicked people for really stupid reasons.
Yep. Let's do this. JR. It says, besides every man writing a book and starting his own podcast, what are some real proactive and positive things that men can do to help Christendom get back on track?
Yeah, we talked a lot about this.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah,
I mean, resent that.
Yeah.
You don't have a book yet, though.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that's
social
right.
justice one.
Social
Justice. Who cares about that stuff anymore?
That's
he
old
wrote,
news.
He wrote a book 20 years ago. It's probably like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
It's old news now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. We talked a lot about this.
We did.
Yeah.
We did
a ton.
And
Andrew talks a lot about just read the book and then listen to our thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we talked about the importance of the household, right? And establishing households because, our culture, trash world, it is doing everything in its power to de-incentivize you from doing that and to prevent you from doing that, to make it difficult to do that.
Right.
And the reason is because that is the primary unit of a civilization, the household. And so when everyone's kind of on their own and atomized and disconnected from everybody, that it makes it easy to control you. It makes it easy for you to manipulate you into desiring, the king's delicacies and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so, it's hard, but it has to be done. You have to start a household. We talked about brotherhood as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to talk about that, but
yeah, no, but with the household thing, we talked about, like slavery, like, the one thing that slaves can't have, you can be a slave and be impoverished, or we talked about
rich.
like Joseph is, was a slave. Technically, he's viceroy of all of Egypt, but he still can't go home.
Yeah.
And so, but the one thing that a slave can't have is a household. A slave is always a part of somebody else's household. Abraham, he's got all these men, and he's not cruel. He allows them to marry. They've got children, but they're part of Abraham's one household. I want you to address that, but real quick, somebody asked, what is the project? They're tuning in late, so I should just say it again.
Yeah.
So this was the idea. We flew out Andy Robles and Andrew Isker for a few days. I know, but just to bolster it up even more, to actually say it verbally. So we flew out. So what happened is Robles and Isker, they came out on Wednesday. They're actually flying back tomorrow morning. And so we just spent 2 full days, Thursday and Friday, and just recorded episode after episode after episode. It's a 9-part series. We're looking at basically about an hour per episode, but it's not going to be released next week. We're gonna sit on this for a while. Nathan Elam, who is our tech director, he's going to take this and he's going to spend a couple months. So this is probably going to be in the new year. He's going to take a couple months and he's going to be adding B-roll at certain parts. We've got cold opens where there'll be B-roll. So every episode has a cold open. There'll be B-roll. There's going to be music at certain parts. And this is going to be highly produced. Places where we're repetitive, and you guys know that I can be repetitive. Nathan's going to trim those things down. So each of these.
Thank goodness for that.
At the recording, we were clocking it at like an hour 10 each episode. But the goal is that when Nathan finishes producing it, they'll be closer to like 40-minute episodes.
Yeah, it'll be like trimming a brisket.
So there you go. Trimming the fat. But it's going to be really, really good. We're excited about it. So it's going to be the highest quality thing we've ever done, in-house, in person, not just virtually, through Zoom or whatever, Riverside. And that changes the dynamic, being in person. And it's over. The whole thing is just over Isker's book. And it's going to be really good.
No pressure, Nathan. This has to be the best thing that you've ever produced.
You've ever done. Yeah.
And if you get in here for just a second. Let the people see. We want to see his face. Just looking at, the man, the myth, the legend. That's Nathan Elam.
He does not want the attention at all.
No, he's a backroom kind of guy. But back to the question of like, what can we do besides everybody starting the podcast and writing the book? You were going to say something.
Yeah, well,
about
that last comment's really good. Make sure to edit the last comment about Joel's plan to drown dispensationalists. As far as this stuff goes, the things that you can be doing is building actual community, like building relationships with other men.
Yes, brotherhood.
Having friendships, building businesses. The key word is build. Does that mean starting a podcast and writing a book and things like that? For some people maybe, but for others, it's taking the strengths that you have, the things that you're really good at, and building something up, not just for yourself and just for your family for now, but something you can hand off to your children,
right?
And something that is a blessing to your community. Like you have, if you build a business and like where are you going to get employees? Well, probably from people in and around your church.
Yeah.
Right. And that ends up being a blessing to them. And then that sets them up so that maybe they can build something for themselves down the road too. And things like that continuing to grow and grow and grow and build. Where, I think, I'm not a prophet or a son of a prophet, but it seems to me like things are going to continue to decline. Right. And we're all post-millennial here, but like things are going to continue to decline.
There are dips along the way.
And they're like the trash world that surrounds us is not good, I think there's going to be something like a collapse. Not necessarily just Mad Max or anything like that, but there will be things where maybe government doesn't function the same way that it does, things like that, where you or
That's a very nice way of saying,
or the society that we have just doesn't work the same way, and there's a large degree of chaos and things like that. Where now, right, if you've been building this stuff and your friends have been building this and your church has been building it and all sorts of Christians all over the country have been building things up in the meantime, now we have the the ability to preserve civilization.
Yeah, some source of stability.
Yeah, when
in the
everything
midst
else
of
is
everything
fallen.
else. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the thing too. A lot of the solutions here, these aren't quick hits. You know, they're not something that you can do in a day. And they might be things that you do not actually get to see the results of.
Right.
You know, maybe the next generation or the generation after that. Right. I mean, some of the stuff you will see the results, but not all of it. And so it's not a magic pill. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of dedication, but it's worth it. And, you know, we've talked about how the Notre Dame wasn't built in a day. Right. But it burned down in a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And to rebuild it, if we had the will and the desire to do something like that, would not take a day.
Yep.
And that's just the reality.
That's right. Yep. So start a business, start a trade, start a vocation, those kinds of things. Also run for local office. Like you may not be a podcast guy or a church planter. I mean, certainly get involved in flesh and blood, a local church, and help build that church. Even if you're not an elder, still just as a faithful member, build that church. That's the beachhead. That's, you know, the tip of the spear. In addition to that, though, building a business, building wealth, all these kinds of things. But then also Dusty Devers, the one, the only, the true Christian prince. You know, like Dusty Devers
good
is
guy.
like he's doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and that guy. I'm impressed by him.
Yeah.
Dusty Devers is a man's man.
Oh, yeah.
And he's, what is it? It's state senator for
Oklahoma. Yeah.
And he's won the primary.
Yeah.
And the general, he should be a shoo-in because it's Oklahoma.
It's Oklahoma,
and he's the Republican candidate.
Yeah. It's like a Democratic running.
So here's a guy
we'll see
who's
what happens, but it should
he's
be
a
good.
Reformed Baptist pastor who's like,
An abolitionist.
intimately involved in abolition ministry. And he is legitimately going to be a state senator. Yeah. Now, granted, the state is Oklahoma. But a state senator, nonetheless.
Yeah.
You know? And like Dusty Devers is the man, and you can be doing that. So you may not be a pastor, you may not write a book, you may not have a podcast, but dude, we need Christians in politics.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah. I've seen a few rebuttals to some of the military stuff. Do you want to
rebuttals to the military stuff? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't mind also hitting the post-mill question about a release of Satan.
That's good.
Because I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What's the rebuttal to the military?
A few of them. Like there's one. Like the nation doesn't deserve my 8 grandsons, and
this nation doesn't deserve my 8 grandsons, and that's not a rebuttal. I know.
I pretty much agree with that. What I'm saying.
We weren't disagreeing.
Yeah, I want to make sure that she knows that I agree.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want my son to go die for.
What I was saying is, if you're right now today, you've been in for 16 years, you've got 4 left for retirement. Retirement, and the retirement is so good. If you could just wait 4 more years, you could be a greeter at Walmart and still have a 6-figure salary, all things considered, and healthcare and all that. Then I think it's worth possibly at least prayerfully considering staying in. We're not talking about a grandchild, a boy who's 1 today with this trajectory joining the military 17 years from now.
And even now, like the young guys right now that are joining up, like my view is like if you do, you should consider it like you're a mercenary. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's, I mean, yes, you're technically serving your country, right? But you're not serving like the good of the people of your country. Right. You're serving the good of the ruling class. Right. And I mean, it's important to get military skills. Like it's important to have guys that have those things. Right. And yet you shouldn't look at it as though like you're serving the US of A and apple pie and Chevrolet and baseball, like the things that we love. You're serving the people in Washington, D.C. Right. You're serving this decrepit Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and people like that. And so if you understand that and you're like, I'm doing it as a mercenary, right? If I went, that's a good point. Just like if I was going to go serve, the British or some other country, or volunteer to fight in the Chinese army. Yeah,
if you sign up for
view it that way,
right? You're signing up.
You're disassociated.
You're ultimately a mercenary serving Ukraine.
Yeah, gaining
you're
military
not even serving
skills.
America. You're serving other nations.
Exactly.
Let's throw up Jonas Brower. Maybe is how you say it.
Brower.
But Nathan, put it up on. Yeah, beautiful. He did it. That's why he's the champ, guys.
He knows.
How does the release? How would you say his last name? Jonas
Brower.
Yeah. Jonas Brower. How does the releasing of Satan and an army standing up against the church, Revelation 20, fit with ultimate optimism before the second coming of Christ? Will it get really, really bad again right before?
This sounds like an Andrew question.
The end. Yeah,
to
I know.
me.
I was thinking.
The answer is right before the end. Yes, it will. I mean, that's what it's clear in Revelation. That's what happens.
Do you hold to a golden age before?
Oh yeah, that's what postmillennialism is that we're in the millennium for this, metaphorical 1,000 years, which is much longer than that, and
but within the millennium, a subset being a golden age.
Yeah, and all the nations come to Christ by the end, and that's actually like one of the proof texts I think for the millennium being, us being in it, is that before Satan is released, all the nations have to come to Christ. Right. They're all coming to Christ, and it isn't after like the resurrection of the dead type of thing either. It's preceding that. Right. It is. This all the nations coming to them, and then they're deceived, and Satan is released from the bottomless pit and fights, and then Christ returns and defeats them, and then that is the end, right? Now, like sometimes, like when I have at my church, there's a bunch of folks that have the typical dispensationalist view of eschatology, and we've been going through Revelation and talking about it, and sometimes I always say, well, they're like, well, things are really bad right now, right? And I'm like, yeah. If anything, if you were going to convince me that things being bad right now had something to do with Revelation, it would be Revelation 20. I mean, I don't think that, but if it was that, and Satan is released and he's deceiving the nations, and all the things going bad right now are that, it's in this Revelation 20 way. It's not in the, we're in the beginning of the tribulation and the early parts of Revelation. It's like, no, I think all those things occurred in 70 AD or before.
Yep. Agreed. AD, anything you want to add?
No, that's great. That's why I asked him to answer.
Yeah. All right. Any other good questions? Nathan, have you seen anything you think's worth? Okay, here we go. Stephen Ralston.
Yeah. Well, this is a good one. Yeah.
It is always a good thing to present. Is it always a good thing to present a red pill online?
No.
I've stirred the pot a few times on Facebook with my family and friends on various subjects. Is your Christian witness a concern when you do this?
Yeah. It can be sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't like the second half of the question. I wouldn't. It's not so much my Christian witness that I would. But go ahead.
It's more of your reputation.
I think. I don't like how that's worded either. It's not really the Christian witness that's a concern, but I think sometimes you do need to understand your audience in order to have credibility with them, or to even be heard by them or understood by them. And I don't think necessarily posting like the most base thing you've ever heard on Facebook does that, because the Facebook audience, it's like you're like aunt or something, or something
people
like
you went to high school with that you haven't talked to in 20 years.
So I think you just have to understand like the audience you have, and use the tactics that are appropriate for the audience that you have, or that you're going for.
I need to think like Facebook especially is this kind of thing where it's like a big family reunion or class reunion kind of thing. And it's like, would I say this stuff to these people in person or not?
Yeah.
And of course, maybe I'm different because I would.
Yeah.
But for most people, like I over the years, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't think it's like that fruitful for me to argue with somebody I had a history class with once in college 15 years ago. Like that's probably not like I'm not going to win the argument with them. But part of it too is like other people are seeing it, and those are the people that you really want the audience to be that might be persuaded. But I don't do a lot of Facebook arguing anymore. Like usually it's like it'll be in person with people. But I'm not going to poo-poo it and say like don't ever do it. That's terrible.
Yeah,
but,
it just really depends on the context there. You know,
I'm not going to disparage a guy for
no.
But I would say in terms of just being sharper and more effective, like Facebook's probably not the best platform for it. Facebook, in my mind, is like it's what you say. It's like
where you share pictures of your kids.
That's where I say hi
to
grandma.
Hey
grandma. And so I don't.
But you can use different things for different people have different reasons for why they use things.
Like some people go on there to argue, and it's fun.
And that's fine. In Twitter, for example, like I rarely ever respond to anybody on Twitter in an argumentative kind of way.
Yeah.
And if I do, it's never more than one tweet. But some people go on there and they'll go back and forth and spar all day. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's a good use of time or a bad use of time. It really depends on your goals, right? But so you can't like blanket condemn it. But no, it's not always good to do that on online or on Facebook or whatever. No.
You have to ask what you're trying to accomplish with it and get out of it. And so that's a thing where I'm like, my views of it has changed. I mean, some of it is like when you're younger, you have more time to just waste on, and it's not. I'm not saying it's necessarily a waste of time, but a lot of times it is. But when you're younger, you're able to do that. When you're older, it's like I only have so much time in the day. I have way more time I need to spend with my kids. So some of it can be that. But no, I think if there are conversations that like, because it's like red pill ones is the question that he asks. And so it's like, well, which kind of red pills? Like, are they the kind of ones where they are not prepared to even begin to understand what you're talking about, or is it stuff that they're persuadable, right? Which ones are you trying to accomplish there? Because some people you got to have that conversation in person.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's always different. Also, I think sometimes what I've had really good conversations that have been sparked by something I've posted online. But those conversations were on the phone or in person after the fact kind of thing. Yeah. So I would just, like you said, think very carefully about what the goals are before you do that kind of stuff.
Right. Real quick, thoughts on Mike Johnson. Put it up there, Nate. Stephen Ralston.
You don't have any thoughts?
Thoughts on Mike Johnson winning this? My thoughts, I think we should just do it super quick. My thoughts is better than what we had. And
not good enough,
but still not good enough.
Not good enough. I think
he's not a Christian nationalist. I'll say that.
They're calling him one, but
when your first move is to give $100 billion to Israel?
It isn't just all to Israel. It's like I don't know how many billion, but it's Israel and Ukraine.
It's all slush fund.
He's
anyway.
a Jewish nationalist.
He's
a Zionist.
He wants to.
But that's
protect Israel, which that's another episode. We did an episode on that, but like that's another episode for another time.
Dispensationalism is a part of Donner's oath.
Well,
just
I
like
think
feminism.
so. I think so, and I think CJ and I are planning on talking about this tomorrow when I get back home for an hour.
For
you can watch Contra Mundum tomorrow night.
You should watch that.
Say that real quick. Picture.
I'll be watching.
Picture YouTube channel.
Contra Mundum.
Contra Mundum.
MUNDUM.
Against
Contra Mundum. Against the world. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's with CJ Engel and me. And we'll talk about politics and current events and
weekly
Protestant political theory. Yeah, weekly. We're just starting to do live now too, so people will be able to ask questions like this one. But
what day?
Well,
it shifts.
Whenever CJ's available. So usually toward the end of the week, like Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And we're going to talk, I think, about Mike Johnson at length tomorrow. Especially like he had a tweet, or the GOP had a tweet of a short speech he gave after accepting the speakership, and it was like all of these principles of conservatism. And I thought it was really silly because it's the same boilerplate stuff that the GOP has said for the last 40 years, and all they do is lose.
Yeah.
Right. And all of these just principles are like supposed to be these timeless principles divorced from a particular people in place, when it's like, I would rather have a Speaker of the House that goes up there and says, I want to be for America and Americans and do the things that benefit them. Right. That's my main goal. And instead of, we want to have more freedom and we want to have more opportunity and lower taxes and things like that. It's like, well, that's cool. It's just like these idealistic principles, but I want like tangible ways that like my country and our people are going to benefit from you being in power.
All I want is a wall. I mean, is that too much to ask?
Just build really one wall. Just one.
Yeah, just one
like
wall.
$100 billion. You could build that wall like 10 walls consecutively.
Yeah.
Like nobody could get past that.
If only our national leaders loved our nation like they love others.
Yeah.
All right, let's do maybe a couple more. The Westwoods. Okay, this isn't easy. Well, what are your thoughts on the non-resistant principle the Anabaptists hold in contrast to the Second Amendment reformers? So the thoughts that the Anabaptists are stupid. Anything besides?
Well, I mean, on one hand, like
pacifism is stupid.
Yeah, I think pacifism is foolish for sure.
It's the luxury of having men who are
being
protected.
Surrounded by it. Yeah,
and you talk about that in your book. The Benedict option is the luxury of.
Well, and it's strange though, because you have, maybe it'll sound like I'm contradicting myself, but like you have, I have this like grudging respect for not the radical Anabaptists, obviously, but like the Hussites or the Hutterites and the Amish, people like this. Like there were Amish groups that were able to survive the Soviet Union that settled in Ukraine and on the Black Sea, that somehow survived the Soviet Union. I don't know if they'll be able to survive, American totalitarianism. But I think people holding a principle, even though I think it's erroneous, I still have some respect for that. I don't. Maybe that's
absolutely.
weird. Like I have a respect that they hold to this. I think they're wrong. I think they benefit still from the Christian capital that has surrounded them. But I think at the end of the day, like if push comes to shove, like they'll stand up for what they're believing.
This guy in the chat, he says real Amish people are strapped.
They are. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know real Amish people. They are absolutely like, and you see in like 2016 and in 2020, like all of the Amish buggies going to vote, right? They were like, we're not going to be pacifists now.
When I said Anabaptists are stupid, I was not immediately going to the Amish. I wasn't thinking of the Amish. I was thinking about your typical Baptist within mid-Eva.
Like John Piper's views of pacifism. Yeah.
Well, and John Piper has publicly said, I am an Anabaptist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when I say an Anabaptist, I was thinking of your modern evangelical Anabaptist in society.
Yeah, and those views are stupid.
I'm thinking about, those views are stupid. Yes.
And I respect him, but I think that view
I respect a lot of other things.
Absolutely idiotic.
But that portion of his views, I do not respect. Not at all. All right, Nathan, what do you think? Or you guys, 80?
What time is it? Yeah.
Is there one more that's worth addressing? What happens to a nation whose men are no longer willing to fight? Nah, that's too long.
That will take a long time.
Yeah.
It's a good question, though.
Yep, it's good. What about the progress?
So a follow up on the Revelation one.
Okay.
We
go
can
ahead and put
finish
it on
that
the screen, Nate. Great. Yeah. What about the progress we will have been reached? That will have been reached
until then.
Until then,
will part of it be lost? Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe, or maybe it's just this rapid thing that happens overnight. I mean, I don't know exactly what it looks like, and that's why when some people are like, well, maybe we had Christendom and Satan is released, during the Enlightenment. Like this is a view some people espouse. I don't think I agree with it. But Satan's released during the Enlightenment, and he's deceiving the nations, and there's going to be this cataclysmic World War III battle. And you almost arrive at the same kind of Dispy end times view, but from like the post-mill perspective. I don't know if I buy that. I think it has to be speculative, right? I don't know exactly how this plays out in Revelation 20. Maybe it's this rapid, quick thing where the nations are deceived, and they take over, and Jesus comes and fights them. I don't know exactly how that works. Could be rapid. The time frame there's not really a clear time frame about if all the progress will be lost and completely gone.
It seems to be brief.
But I mean, Jesus comes back and fixes it.
Yep.
Right away.
Right away.
So I don't know exactly how it plays out. But if there is any progress lost, Jesus comes and he brings down the new Jerusalem to the new earth, and it's done.
Right.
Yeah, guys. So I'll say this: our glasses are almost empty, or actually,
mine's gone.
They are empty.
All three of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we ran.
And we're getting
out.
together with the guys in my church. In just
I gotta say, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
really just to meet you and to come back here and spend some time with you. The one thing that I think is just oozing from this room right now, besides the sweat.
There's sweat. Yeah.
It's all me.
It is hot in here. But it's just there is a lot of optimism, and there's a lot of energy in this room that is palpable, and so we're gonna win.
Yeah,
and we all need to just kind of get that into our bones. We're gonna win.
We are going to win,
and it's going to be amazing. I think this is even how you end the book.
Yeah, you just gave away the ending of the book.
Sorry,
now no one's gonna buy it.
Actually, Jesus gave that away a long time ago. But man, it's an exciting time to be a Christian. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Amen. It is. All right. Well, that's the live stream for this week, and pray for AD and Isker. They're flying back tomorrow. Safe travels.
Yes, thank you.
And pray for Nathan with just a ton of work. In addition to everything he's already doing, his normal workload, this is going to be his special project for the next couple months.
It'll be great.
And we'll give you guys announcements and cue in, when it's coming out. So, but 9 episodes, each one is about over an hour long. By the time it's done, being, just tight. Nathan's going to get it tight, and music, it's good, it's B-roll, it's engaging, all that kind of stuff. Each episode will probably be, between 40, 50 minutes long, 9 episodes, the whole thing going over Isker's book, The Boniface Option. And I think it's going to be great. So thanks for tuning in.
Our sponsors, Private Family Banking Partners, is on a mission to help Christians live out the Dominion mandate by making a stealth-like move away from the mainstream banks and into their own privatized banking system. This innovative system is designed to guarantee uninterrupted compound interest and tax-free growth without exposure to typical stock market risks. To join this growing community that is already building wealth unto future generations and converting post-mill talk into post-mill action, contact private family banking partner Chuck DeLauderante at his email chuck@privatefamilybanking.com. That's chuck@privatefamilybanking.com. Set up an appointment and receive a free copy of Chuck's new book, Protect Your Money Now: How to Build Multi-Generational Wealth Outside of Wall Street and Avoid the Coming Banking Meltdown. Go to the links in the show notes below. Are you a small business owner and desire to defer a larger amount of your business income? Find out how to defer more income taxes, in some cases up to 10 times more than you can with your current 401k plan or other retirement plans. Are you trying to acquire or sell a business, but getting enough cash together for the transaction is the sticking point to closing the deal? Then please contact our sponsor, Defined Benefit Partners. They will provide a free analysis of what may be possible for your business or the business that you want to buy or sell. See their contact information in the show notes below.